Men, do you ever feel like you just can't get ahead? Like you're misunderstood? Like you have no one to talk to that truly hears you?
And women, are you often frustrated, hurt, and saddened in your relationships with the men in your life?
What if there were a community of like-minded men going through the same challenges that would support, hear, and understand what you're going through?
Working together in unison to create understanding, intimacy, and strong connections. That's the Way of the Illuminated Warrior.
Way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show is a forum of candid conversations for men and women about men. Being a man today is not always easy. Until now.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to have my partner in occasional crime, Beth Perojic, back in the house. We've done quite a number of shows together, and I guess we could say we were both on a little bit of a sabbatical, but we're back together. So I want to welcome you back to the show, Beth.
Well, very, very good to be back too, Waska. You know, sometimes the timing on things is very, very important, and we just need to take care of other things periodically. And there's no need to push against, right? So we just went with the flow, and it feels much better as a result to be back here with you today. So I'm happy to be here. Great to chat with you.
Yes, excellent. So we are going to dive into signs today. What are you laughing about? Yeah. So we've all experienced like those sacred encounters, those signs, on our, we'll say, spiritual journey. So I want to dive into that and have you also introduce the book Signs that you are one of the co-authors on, and just how people could understand the signs, how it's a communication with the universe, how it deepens our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. So let's just dive into that. Like, how did this project even get going, and like, what was your part in it?
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for asking. I'm very proud of this work. Sacred Stories Publishing is the publishing house. And my dear friend, Simran Singh, very dear friend, mutual friend of ours, actually, suggested that I submit a piece because I started to experience signs from the universe, signs in spirit, when I was a really young kid. So I didn't think anything of it as a child, but apparently it's quite cool that I started to experience them when I was a child. So anyway, I submitted a story. They accepted it for publishing, and I'm really proud to be a part of this group of people who have put together. I'm sorry, I'm going to have my facts off. How many chapters? Maybe 9 chapters, and each one of our stories is very, very unique, which to me speaks to the fact that these signs come from all angles, from all areas, up, down, sideways, backwards. These signs come to us all the time. And the key, of course, and we could chat about this, is what this topic is all about, is to acknowledge them, pay attention, and realize that this is not coincidence. This is divine synchronicity when these signs come to play. And some people would very flippantly just say, well, that's no big deal. It's no big deal. I'm like, yes, it's a very big deal. It's a very big deal. These signs are coming to you for a reason. Pay attention, right? Would you agree? Do you see signs? Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Absolutely. That's why I was kind of messing around in the beginning with my white feather, which apparently I'm not the only one with white feather. But for me, which I could get into maybe a little later, white feather is a spirit guide that's spoken to me that really kind of propelled me on my spiritual journey. So, seeing signs, like a lot of people see the 1111s or the other, numbers and sequence like that, and feathers. And, so yes, I totally agree with that, because for me, when I pay attention to those signs, like when there's a white feather in the sky or there's a white feather at my foot, it's a channel for me to open up and speak to my spirit guide, that's telling me, okay, where are you right now? What are you thinking right now? What direction are you facing in right now? What animal ally did you possibly just see right now? What is going on? And most, if not all the time, I'm like usually ruminating over something, like trying to figure out what to do with my life or a situation. And then I tap into like my spirit guide, white feather, and just open up to, well, I'm facing the west. So that's about like looking introspectively and like going into those dark waters of, contemplation and just looking at the signs that are being presented to me. So absolutely. Yeah, I totally believe in the signs, and I believe that we all have them. It's just a matter of the awareness and opening yourself up to saying, hey, what's going on here? Yeah.
I agree. And I think I know we've come a long way. Those of us who who are more conscious, who are into this type of thing, it's like just no longer woohoo. It's no longer, oh my God, like that's just ridiculous. How could she possibly believe in that kind of thing? It's very becoming more and more mainstream, which is fantastic. And I can't for the life of me, even though I've tried to research a little bit just for my own curiosity, why we got all wrapped up in it being so scary or weird. How could, like, when you think about it, even logically, it just begs for logic that there has to be something bigger than we are, more vibrant, more dynamic than we are. And why wouldn't any of those entities, even aliens from another planet, whatever, why would they not be communicating with us? Like, basically, I say to myself, we humans, who do we think we are? That we're all that, and we're the only ones. Yeah. Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it? Doesn't make any sense. It's crazy.
Well, if you look at the world, it makes perfect sense because we're creating exactly what we obviously, are putting out there. So yeah,
that's very, very, very true.
Yeah.
But as part of my personal spiritual practice every morning, I have prayer time, journaling time, meditation time. I exercise every morning, et cetera, et cetera. I always set the intention, though. It's part of my protocol for my spiritual practice is to, I ask my consciousness to be open, or I say to my higher self, be open to all things that are possible today, all things. Yeah. So it becomes like my stamp for the day, just to be open. So sure enough, every single day, without fail, every single day, something new and exciting comes my way. Some kind of a sign comes my way. And I always look up to the heavens. You can look anywhere you want, but I always look up to the heavens and I go, and then there it is. Thank you very much. Let's see what we can do with it. But I like the point that you brought up, Waska, about when you see your feather and your white feather spirit guide, it forces you to be present for that.
Yeah.
A few seconds, right? It really does. You have to stop and look to the direction that you're facing. Think about what you were thinking about, that kind of thing. It's kind of fun. Like I find it kind of interesting and fun. It's not all heavy. It's kind of fun. Now, can I share with you an example?
Absolutely.
Of a recent sign?
Yeah.
This came to me, this idea, I call it divine idea, came to me in the early stages of the pandemic. A little bit bored, how long is this going to last? We all went through that little phase of, is it almost over or is it going to last a long time kind of thing? So I was playing actually one day. I was coloring in a coloring book, adult coloring book. And it came to me, a picture of a dime. So dimes, as far as signs are concerned, are generally considered angels or a spirit who's made its passing, comes down. If you see a dime on the ground or dimes repeatedly, then something's trying to tell you something. So I had this vision of dimes. And then I thought, well, what is that supposed to mean? So then I was guided I went to the bank and I got a roll of dimes. So $5 worth of dimes. And I bought some red nail polish and I put a dot of red nail polish on each one of the dimes. The red meaning heart. I'm sending out love. Okay. Then I walked about my city. Everybody, it was kind of empty because everybody's in the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. And I just dropped these dimes periodically. And I thought, well, that feels kind of cool because I'm spreading some abundance. A dime is not much, but it was more the angel part, like the fact that it was an angel and a heart on it. So I'm spreading love. I thought that was so good, filled my heart. I felt amazing. Not a week later, I started to get dimes back. My dimes with the hearts on them.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, that's
I live
wild,
in a city of 500,000 people. And they started to come back to me. And I almost on my knees weeping with gratitude. Because
what did that say to you? What was the message?
It said to me that love was coming back to me. Yeah. I had set a strong intention I didn't do it to do for any other reason except that I was guided to do it. And I thought, well, spreading love is probably still a good thing, right? That's kind of what I was thinking. And the fact that it came back to me, like more than one. The first time I saw it, I went, oh my God. Oh my God. And then more than one and more than one. And I haven't seen one in quite some time. So maybe they've all gotten redistributed.
Sure. Well, if you think about it, they could be anywhere, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was an experiment many years ago, like and people do this. I see people write their names on dollar bills or
dollar bills.
and to see if they get them back and all. But if you think about how many hands, if you could follow the path of a dollar bill, where it goes, it could literally wind up on the other side of the world. And how many hands it's touched, how many stories it's heard, how many impressions it's taken in, and same thing with the dimes, obviously, also. So like, what does that say to you? Because to me, it's like almost like an affirmation. Not almost, it really is an affirmation for me that the world is getting smaller, or that interconnection is really there, that we really are all connected, and we could touch each other in ways that we might not necessarily even think about, and that's obviously a very subtle, mundane way. But if we could do that with a dime, obviously we could do that with our thoughts, with our intentions, with our goodwill. And so I think it's pretty cool. I mean, what's your take on it?
It is. Yeah, thanks. And you know what I'm thinking too, is that we have, I don't want to be Debbie Downer because our talks are generally very, very positive, but let's face some facts the way that they really are. World's a bit messed up right now. There are more unconscious beings on the planet than there are conscious beings. So we've got people like you and I and our dear friend Simran. We've got our work cut out for us. We're the person for the job, or we wouldn't be here. So I'm okay with that. However, we went through a period, I think it was 2012. You correct me if I'm wrong, Waska, because you might know this timeline better than me. 2012, where we thought we were going to reach that tipping point where we almost had that sweet spot where we could really break through, like really start to break through to planet Earth and humans on planet Earth at the very least. And it just, darn it, didn't happen. People started to make poor choices again, or low vibrating choices. And oh God. And so now we're really, like, energetically, I can feel it. And I'm sure you can too. You spend a lot of time in nature, so you'll feel it in some respects more than me. The struggle is real, but I'm not saying woe is me. I'm feeling that we've got a lot of work to do. And if we can start with something as simple as signs, as dimes, as feathers, as if we can start with something as simple as that, it just soften us a little bit. Soften it. I'm sure when you're out in nature, maybe you can share an example or two if anything comes to mind. Yeah. When you're out in nature, you must see some of the most amazing birds, or a little chipmunk will cross your path, or right? I'm sure. Absolutely. And then what do you do with that when that happens to you? Yeah. Your signs.
Yeah, great question. I think it's all awareness and interpretation. So 2012 was about what was known as the end of the Mayan calendar. Maybe it was the end, maybe it was the beginning, so there was thoughts about that. Some people had some thoughts that it's like the doomsayers, it's the end, but others, the more connected spiritual people, of course, we always go with the positivity that it's the beginning. The calendar may end, but it's the beginning of a new earth, so to speak. So why I say it's the awareness and the perception. Some people thought it's one way, other people thought it the other way, and I think that's the same thing with the signs. We could take them however we want. We can interpret them however we want, because they're all personal, So when I'm in the woods, I've always been very, very connected, especially with birds of prey. Where I used to live on Long Island, the red-tailed hawk was very, very predominant. I mean, they're all over the country, but I literally could communicate with them. I remember driving up upstate New York, probably doing 70 to 75, maybe 80 miles per hour with my mom.
You rebel.
My mom's sitting next to me in the car, and I'm like, I tap on the brake. She's like, "Whoa, what's the matter?" I'm like, "I got to get off the next exit." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "There was I knew what kind of hawk it was. There's a Cooper's hawk on the side of the road." She's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, I come off the next exit, I go back around. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Mom, she thought I thought I was crazy. This bird is calling out to me." I mean, I just saw it on the side of the road. It was actually freshly hit, so it was, I'll say it's a fresh kill. There wasn't any flies or anything on it. So we were going up to see my childhood friend, and we had food in a cooler. So I took the food out. I always carry tobacco with me, Native American spirit. I did some prayers, really to give an offering of gratitude and release the spirit for the for the birds' life, and I put it in this cooler. And my mom like, "Are you freaking crazy?" Yeah. First of all, how did you see that thing going 80 miles an hour? I'm like, "Well, it called to me." She's she always knows I'm a little out there. But yeah, I took this bird of prey up there and did some more prayers over it, and in a good way, just like just the way the Native American spirit worked back in the day and still to this day. The concept and practice is to not waste anything, like the buffalo, especially for the plains, Lakota. Was a very big source of abundance. That's what the buffalo represents, abundance. So obviously they got food from it. They use the robes for warmth, for blankets, for the inipi, the sweat lodge. They use the muscle, the sinew for tying things. I mean, they use every part of it. The bones for cups and tools. So it's the same thing. And honoring. If you find a bird of prey or whatever the animal is, you could do whatever you want, but it's giving the gratitude and acknowledgement that this creature, this animal, the spirit lived on the earth with us, and it has value even in death. So it's just giving that gratitude and utilizing as much of it as you can. So I've got them around here, like feather fans and different spiritual items that I've gifted to people, like they could use for what's called medicine work. So but that, to me, those are signs. That bird called out to me. That was a sign to me.
Yeah.
I want to see my friend. There's a connection there. And I utilized all those the tail feathers and again, made fans out of the wings, but as gifts, and people are like, whoa, interesting gift, which some people think it's a little out there, to have a, even have like a turtle rattle. But, again, it's all individual. Those are signs to me that connect me to Gaia, to Mother Earth, to nature, to spirit, to myself,
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And when did you recall when well, there was an example, you were younger when this experience happened with that hawk, but even as a little kid, do you recall kind of being fascinated with birds of prey, or like what do you remember?
It's funny that you say that, because my aunt, I was barely talking, so she's passed now, but she would tell the story that I'd be sitting there, I'm like, Bodies, and she didn't know what I was saying. And then she finally figured it out. I was pointing up in the tree to the birdies. I couldn't say birdies, so I'd be like Bodies, because they were singing, and I was like, I didn't care about anything else. I'm like, look at the Bodies. So
oh my God.
I suppose I did have a connection to the winged ones back then as well. Yeah. So let me ask you, in the book, just to give people a little flavor and taste of what's in there, if you would like to share another story of something that was profound for you in recognizing these signs and following them, if you will.
Yeah. Let's see. There are literally so many. The Dimes one was pretty cool, a very recent one. But okay, here's an example. As you can see, I'm not being rude, not looking at you. I'm looking out the window, because even as we're talking, I'm sitting in a very warm climate right now, and the trees are barely moving, but there's birds everywhere. So here we are talking about birds, and I could sit here for an hour reading in this room and not see a bird, but here you and I are talking about it, and there's birds everywhere. So when I do intuitive readings on clients, again, I set the intention for the session to be to the highest good of especially that person, and to anyone and everything that touches it. So quite often I will be guided. I always keep a pencil and I always keep a pad of paper with me, especially during a reading. And the guides will literally guide my hand. The guides will guide my hand. And so after I'm finished a session, will look down at the sheet of paper and not recall writing some of the things that I wrote. I call those, and yet I reiterate what I've written to the client. So the client gets the information that the guides are giving me, but I'm kind of just this conduit, kind of la land in between, and they literally take over my hand, and I cannot stop it. So to me, that's a direct sign. That's a real direct sign, is when you're writing on their behalf. It's not because I'm all that. Everybody could get and interact with their intuition to the degree that I do. So I'm not saying this to say that I'm all that in a bag of chips, because it's completely attainable for everybody. There just went by another set flock of birds, just went by. So that's an example of how signs can be really distinct. Like, that's distinct. If they want to grab my hand and actually write something with it, that's a sure sign.
Yeah,
that's a sure sign.
absolutely. We'll be right back after this.
Hey guys, this is Waska. Listen, if you're hearing my voice, there are no coincidences. Are you ready to get unblocked and take the next step forward, whether it's with relationship issues, finances, or just moving into the next phase to elevate yourself? Listen, bros, this is what I do. I'm here for you. Drop me an email at Waska, that's WASKA, at illuminatedwarrior.com. We will work on this together and take you to the next step. I promise you'll be glad you did.
So we're looking at these signs, we're recognizing them, we're having the awareness that this is the universe communicating with us. So I know for me, like if I'm like very distracted or if I got something weighing heavy on my mind, I'm not necessarily seeing these signs, so and I'm not conscious of that necessarily, but there's times where I am in my head and then I recognize I'm like, okay, this is not where I want to be right now. And then I'll whether just take some deep breaths or maybe I feel like meditating or doing yoga or whatever it is to just clear my head out. All of a sudden, like, whoa, look at that. What about that? So I think you'll agree, like the signs are pretty much always there. It's just a matter of like, are we going to choose to be aware to recognize them? And then, okay, what does this mean to me? How does this feel to me? What's the message coming through? So I believe they're always there. Just a matter of, are we there to connect with them? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think in order to kind of like serve anybody who's listening to this awesome conversation that we're having is to, it's almost like play around with it a little bit. Just play around with it a little bit. And something as simple as setting an intention at the beginning of the day. Here, I'll give you a silly example. I might say to myself, I really like the color blue. I've seen this, like your shirt. You've got a navy blue shirt. Yeah. I've got a teal blue blouse on today. And just kind of, oh, that's pretty. I like that blue. That's a really, really pretty color. And then the next thing you know, you're going to see more blue. And then the next thing you know, you're going to see more blue. Then you're going to look up at a billboard. It's going to be blue. And then you're going to turn on the television and the sportscaster that you're watching is in blue. But see how that could appear to be just coincidence. To me, it is not. It is not. And then you'll be pulling up behind somebody in their car and their license plate will say BLU, blue. Like it's amazing to play with it. It doesn't have to be all heavy. It's just be open to the fact that they are keenly interested in communicating with us. And it just does not have to be a really scary thing. It's a very delightful thing. But it's delightful when you see so much blue in a day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look up and hopefully the clouds aren't obscuring the blue sky. Yeah, the blue canvas. Yeah. So what's your take on, so these signs are, I think we believe that they're always there, right? There's a lot of stress, as we know, in the world, like having the power and capacity to like really even help us reduce stress, to figure out, maybe the best and highest answer for a question that we're pondering over, just to feel better overall. Like the power of these signs to really communicate the messages that the universe is here to support us. And if we just choose to look at these signs and interpret them, that they can have that kind of power. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like one thing in particular that you just said is that the universe is benevolent. It wants what's best for us. So of course, when the proverbial bad things happen to good people, we're human. So you're going to go, that doesn't appear to be in balance. But if we can sit still, be present during those periods of time, whether we're the ones directly affected or whether we're thinking about someone, or you look at something that's happened in the world, you think, how can that possibly be to someone's highest good? We owe it to ourselves to be in the present moment and sit still and find the something, the something. There will be the something in there, and that even that divine idea or that divine thought is a sign. But you have to be conscious, and you have to be diligent, and you have to really kind of be hardcore with yourself and say, I'm going to find something good in this. I'm going to find something good, and it will come. It will definitely come, especially like the real horrific things like school shootings and all that kind of stuff. Like it's hard. It's really, really hard to find the good in that for sure. But with hand over heart, you spread love to all that were affected. And there has to be, because as soon as we stop believing that the universe is not benevolent, we're in really big trouble.
Yeah.
We are in really big trouble. And I tell the story a lot, Waska, about, the soul coming down to planet Earth. Like, why the hell would we come down here? This mad hole. Like, it looks like such madness half the time.
For the food.
Yeah, for the food. That's it.
The food.
For the food. But I remember having conversations with my God, saying that the greatest gift that entity gives us is free will and choice.
Yeah.
So how we're choosing to use that free will and choice is starting to be very evident. We're not maybe using it as to the highest good, but to remember that we have free will and choice around that. So the blame game becomes disallowed. We take responsibility. We have to take responsibility. And when we need help in taking responsibility, to your point of having a thought or a decision or something that's kind of, bugging you, remember that this is benevolent work, and that the right thing, this is just going to sound so cliche, but like the right thing will come to you if you set your intention in the present moment and say, I need help. I'm requesting help.
Yeah.
And any way, shape, or form you want to give me a sign, I'll take it.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
That's a great point. I totally believe in that. Just the power of positivity. Same thing. It might sound cliche or easy to do, but to wake up, I have my best experiences with life when I wake up and I end my day with prayers of gratitude, because there's really always something to be grateful for. And I don't like to say, well, there's always somebody who has it worse than me. That's not positivity to me. My attitude is like, I could just spew out a whole list right now. My kids, my health, my surroundings, nature, music. There's just so many things I am grateful for, and it doesn't have to be these big miraculous things. I mean, just, being able to breathe when, I look at my elderly mom, which we were talking a little bit about that beforehand, and I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for the time she has. I mean, so I think there's a lot of power in that also. And those are signs as well, finding the things to be grateful about and the positivity in it. So I wanted to ask you, so you're one of the auspicious authors of this book. There are several other authors. So did you glean anything from the experience of reading some of the other stories? And how does that connect with your ability to read these signs and move forward?
You know what? That's a really good question. Not only did I read the other people's stories, but we were part of a Sacred Stories publishing. Is it a video blog? I don't know, whatever you call that thing. We were interviewed. All the 6 or 7 of us were interviewed, and so it was really fun for me to put a face to a name of someone whose story had read. And because they were all so different, I've now subsequently seen more feathers. Right? Yeah. Feathers are very common. They weren't really part of my fray much, but once I read the story now, and speaking to you about feathers, there you go.
Where? I missed it.
Where feathers?
Missed it.
One of the authors, whose name escapes me, so I apologize to her for that, but she wrote a piece about feathers and how important they are to her. And subsequently, I've engaged more in the feather talk. So here's an example. I have an office, a home office, where I do my readings on my clients. And I had rearranged the furniture one day just for a change of pace, cleaned it all up, did a little bit of saging, smudged it a little bit, got all cleared up. And the very next day, I went to work, I went into that office, and there was a feather on my chair.
Yeah.
100% no windows open, for birds to get in. Like there's nothing that could have explained that. And so it sits now in a special little vase on my desk, because that was most definite. And a clear sign for me, not only that spirit was in the room, but that they were on side with me changing the furniture. I thought, you know what? I've been sitting with the furniture that way for years, and nothing, no feathers. The day I decide to change it, the feather comes.
Okay, so how do you explain the unexplainable?
I,
If you were tasked to do that to somebody who's like, what are you talking about? How do you explain that unexplainable?
explain that. Well, that's the power of faith, right? That's the power of just saying, all I do. If someone was asking me, who was questioning, I'd say, I have faith in that. I have faith in that. And it works for me. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm just saying it works for me. I know it. So another thing that, like a bit of a mantra for me kind of thing, is I know what I know what I know. And as soon as I say that to my husband or my kids, there's nothing you can do to convince me otherwise. When I know what I know what I know. So I know that was spirit talking to me, and I don't give a shit whether anybody else believes it or not. It's
A little delayed.
So it's,
yeah, there's a difference between even between a belief and a knowing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because a belief could be, your mind could be changed on a belief, but when it's I know what I know what I know, it's solid as all get go, and don't even try.
Right.
Don't even try.
Know it in your whole body, and your bones, and your cells. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know what? If you put someone like me or you, who have strong ties to spirit, by our own volition, our choice to connect the way that we choose to connect, and you put a neuroscientist in the room, or someone of great brains, great intellect, absolutely. But how would that person explain that feather? Look at this room. There are windows in here, but nothing is open. The door was not open. It cannot be explained, and that's kind of the beauty of being in the spirit world. It is that. And then now I'm just getting a little bit of a prophecy here, Waska, of your beautiful story at the starting of this conversation, of the way the Native organizations, the Native people, we call them Indigenous up here in Canada, Indigenous people, they really walk that talk. It's so beautiful. It is so beautiful.
Way of life.
To see.
Yeah. It's not just a fad or a habit or a hobby. It's a way of life. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And we could learn so much. It's so rich, and it's deep, and I'm trying to find an even better word, because I didn't even, like, the essence of it is just so beautiful and delightful. There's that word delightful again. So beautiful and so delightful. We could really stand to learn a lot from them. I'm sure you've had some amazing signs come to you, maybe while in ceremony.
Oh gosh, yes. That's a whole nother show on itself, because I've been so blessed with some amazing signs that I would think would blow people away. That can't be real. Yes, quite had me as spiritual as I am. I also feel like I'm a little skeptical at times, and I think that serves me well. Like, I question, just like you said with the feathers. I was in an Inipi ceremony, a real quick story, what's better known as a sweat lodge, and there was entities in there. I'm like, okay, Bobby, the poor, or the facilitator, he's got to be, there's something going on here, and I'm not going to get too specific, but I was like, and there was feathers in there also. Okay. So I was getting brushed with feathers, was one of the things. He was across of the womb where these grandfathers, these hot stones were. His arm's not that long. There's no physical way. This it was like a bird, which it was. It was one of his allies that he brought in, flying around the lodge, like brushing, all of our heads to whatever with feathers. First I'm like, well, how is he doing that? He's got a long stick. No, he didn't have a long stick. And that's just a very, very small, wild experience and sign that, like, I had a very big epiphany after that, which again, for another time. So, but speaking of time, we're running out of time. So to wrap this up, what would you like to say to the folks that are listening to or watching this today? Right.
Well, we'll kind of recap a little bit of what we both talked about. To be grateful for this information. If you're skeptical and you're willing to give it a bit of a try, have fun with it. Don't be too serious. Let it evolve the way that it needs to evolve, but just be open enough to set an intention for fun, and just for fun and games today. I'm going to watch for signs. I'm going to watch for all things blue, to my point before, or I'm going to watch for all things. It doesn't matter. We'll just keep using blue as an example. Just be open. When it happens, when you see a bunch of blue, say, okay, either that's coincidence or that's hooey from from the things that Beth and Waska were talking about. That's okay with me. Allow that consciousness to be open, because the divine or God or the universe is looking down saying, oh my gosh, we have an opportunity here to show ourselves. We have an opportunity to show ourselves. And they will do that. And they will do it. In the meantime, I'm carrying on enjoying all the signs that I get on a daily basis, because it serves me really, really well. Good.
Awesome. Well, yes. Thank you, Beth. I think this was a enriching conversation. And I would say anybody who's watching or listening to this, it's a sign. It's a sign for you to order the book Signs by Simran and co-authors to be listed in the link below this. So follow the signs. So for now, we're signing off.
Very good. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Visit IlluminatedWarrior.com if you'd like to go deeper and find out more about what's available within the Illuminated Warrior Men's Transformational Community. Tune in next time for more candid conversations for men and women about men on the Way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show. Until next time, illuminate your path with loving kindness.